Who am I? The girls them sugar.
What's up? What's up, man?
There it is.
We back. We back.
Who am I? The girls them sugar.
How you feeling, man?
Back and better. You know, Tia reffing.
I like
game
it.
today, dog.
I like it. I like it, man.
Got the
It's
big
getting better.
game
Got the
today.
Nova flag. Okay.
Because I'm tired of looking at that damn Ohio State flag. So, let you know what time
Listen,
it is.
man, there's levels to the teams that we have.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd have been better, but Penn State that'd have been trash.
One of these
Yeah.
teams won a championship in the past couple of years. I'll just say that.
When these teams are consistently in the playoffs and when they're not.
Welcome to the Who Am I podcast. We're not about to start. We'll start with the negativity, then we'll end on some positivity. So.
Yeah, man. We always got to end with the positivity.
Yeah,
but man, dog, I'll tell you what. I know he's like always joking about 2020 being terrible, but 2020 is one of the worst of our generation. That's for sure.
Well, remember how like we used to always talk about like, damn, what's the best year? Like, was it 2015? Was it 20? And it was just like constantly every year was getting better. This is by far the worst year.
This must be karma for something, bro. We not living right out here.
The only thing I was talking to the homie about this. The only like silver lining that I see is that we're able to get through some of these things and still like laugh about it. Like, not necessarily all of us. Like there are some serious moments where we have to be serious, but the fact that we can go through so much and still be able to post some funny memes and still find some laughter and still find some joy and still find a light at the end of the tunnel only speaks to the strength of like our people, bro. It's
100%.
It's amazing.
100%. We in a bad time, but when you can, have that positivity that smiles through it, we still in a good spot.
Yeah, all things considered.
Yeah.
All right, so.
Well, yeah, but speaking of, let's get to this music, and then we'll get to, the bulk of what we're going to talk about today.
You want to start with singles or albums? Because I got a little bit of both.
I got a few singles, and I only got really one album, two kind of, but really one album I want to talk about.
All right, let's talk about these singles first. You start off with your favorite rapper that you actually hit me with and told me I needed to check out his album. So Lil Yachty dropped a
Are you gonna talk about the album?
I'm not talking about his album.
All right, cool. Well, yeah, that was my second that I don't want to talk. That was my
I'm not gonna talk about his album, but I will talk about he got a song with Tierra Whack, ASAP Rocky, and Tyler the Creator. It's called TD. Everybody went crazy on there, but Lil Yachty.
Like, that's his verse was like 30 seconds.
But I'm glad he did that. Like he was like, you know what?
It was like 30
I'm not gonna ruin this, y'all. Like I'm gonna set it up and I'm gonna end it just to let y'all know, like I'm still here. Like this is my album. But ASAP Rocky went crazy. Tyler the Creator went crazy. Tierra Whack. Like Tierra Whack, I'm biased obviously because she's from Philly, but she is so underrated. She's such a dope artist. Like we always talking about Rhapsodies and we always talk about the Cardi B's when we talk about female rappers, but Tierra Whack is an up-and-coming rapper that I really want a full-length project from her.
Yeah.
She dropped the project a couple years ago. It was only like 15 minutes. And it was really like just a bunch of long video or like short videos. But ultimately, I want to hear her project. But back to the song, the beat was dope. A$AP Rocky dropped it was a sample from Tokyo Drift. Tyler, the Creator, ever since, because I think we put him on the 2018. I put him on the 2018 like best album lists, and that was like kind of like my first time really getting into his music. Ever since then, he's just been consistently popping up on different people's track. And I'll talk about an album that he popped up on earlier this year. He popped on a West Side Gun album, so he went crazy. And this song right here was kind of like if somebody threw an alley-oop and it's right by the rim. And like Tierra Whack just did a windmill with it. A$AP Rocky put it behind the back. Tyler the Creator did a 360, and then Lil Yachty just like hit it up. Like he didn't really touch it. He didn't dunk it. He just like laid it up. So
yeah, man,
dope track.
Yeah, no, that's by far the standout track from the whole album. By far, it's not even close. Yeah. Like that. We gonna have to speak. The album is. Lil Bo got fans.
Hey, bro, he got a.
I was just asking, like, Lil Bo got fans for real.
I don't know, bro. Like low key, I remember he was when he first came out. Like that was the big thing, and he was like the face of mumble rap. He
Yeah,
had the red hair and everything like that. But even then, his album didn't really do too well.
nah.
He was more popular than actually being successful. But I'm not
Some
sure.
would argue that's not really his they game though. Like the new generation outside of like Lil Uzi.
Yeah, I think it's more single driven.
Yeah,
Like he had the like Cold like Minnesota and all that stuff, but he dropped that Oprah's bank account and that didn't go anywhere.
dang.
You know, I think he was expecting that to take off, but that didn't go anywhere.
Right, because Drake gave him out that 30-second verse. Drake only gave him that 30. When you put Drake and the baby on the song, though, that should do better than what it is.
Yeah, but
No, great
definitely
song.
not.
Great song. I'll give him credit for that. He
Yeah.
did. He knew his role on that song. You can't do too much. Can't do too much.
Yeah, kind of like we were saying about West Side Gun. Like, all right,
Mhm.
let me get out the way. Let me cultivate this sound, and I just don't
Yep.
mess it up. That's all.
Yep. As long as I don't fuck it up, we good.
Yeah.
Oh shit, my bad. All right, shit. Let's get it. Had to turn the do not disturb on.
Yeah. Turn that Yachty off.
Yeah. I've been turned that off. I never made it on. I barely made it on. I barely made it. It's not for me, right?
There we go. That my dog. That
It's
my
not
dog.
for me.
Right there.
It's not for me. This one actually ain't for me either, but I thought it was really cool. I'm gonna talk about the TKN single from Rosalia. Am I saying that right?
Rosalia.
Rosalia. I got it before you corrected me, so it's right.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
That's how that worked, bro.
No, I got it.
You know this is on camera, right? You know.
Hey, I cut it. So I'll cut it. Don't worry. Rosalia and Travis Scott. So it's funny because it's actually classified as pop, but it has that kind of like Latin American sound. Like it's really a mixture. You got Travis Scott. He got a little bit of Spanish bars for you on there. He also goes back into like his bag and try to rap like that on there. And it all fits really well. And again, it's not really something I would listen to, but I can imagine if I listen to this genre of music, this might be a really good song. In addition to that, I think it just shows like Travis Scott his range. Like he really out here doing this. Like we know Drake got range. We know Drake he'll switch it up like this, but Travis Scott gonna come in and doing something like this. I thought like, okay, like you really he's inching every time I listen to him, he's inching up to that like top tier level to me. Like his sales is already there, his popularity is already there, he's already a superstar. We know he's not like a lyricist, but he makes really good music. So every time I hear him, he just inches up a little bit more for me. So TKN, Rosalia, got to roll. Rosalia, got to roll the tongue. And
You didn't
Travis
do it
Scott.
though. You didn't roll it.
Listen, I've never been great at that. I've never been great at that. All right, it's not my. I
All you
told
did
you.
was lean forward. Like,
Listen, we got mics now. You got the mic will catch it. We got mics now.
oh, bro. No, that's dope. I think it was in 50 Book where he was talking about like the make of a artist, like a superstar. And I think like Travis Scott is kind of checking all the boxes of what it takes to be a superstar. Like when you talk about the hit songs, the sales, the look, the image, the branding, the relationships. Like it was just a resurfaced article about him dealing with Rihanna, and I forgot that was even a thing.
I forgot that was. I don't even know if that's true, but damn.
No, it was true. Like Rihanna was trying to tell, she didn't want it to get out. So once they reported on it, like Travis Scott, I think it was with Complex, like they kind of severed those ties with Complex because they recorded it or they reported on it when they didn't want it to get out.
Yeah.
And obviously the Kylie Jenner. So it's like he's checking almost all the boxes of what it takes to
100%.
be a superstar. So
100%.
I agree. Like this is just another step, kind of cement him in that lane.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. You want me to go again, or you got another one?
I got one more. So I got the homie Black. He dropped a ATL freestyle. I really liked it. I think he snapped out. It's dope because when he first came out, he was talking about how he used to be a battle rapper and how he used to like really focus on his bars. And when I really listened to what he's saying, like R&B, I just want it to sound well. You know what I mean? Like I don't really tune in too much, but I want it to sound well. I want some certain, like you kind of know what you're going to listen to, the certain concepts and the range you're going to get. But he's like spitting bars, singing, got auto-tune, got metaphors and all of that. And I think it really shines through on his projects. And recently revisited his second album, and I was like, damn, this is like I kind of slept on that album, but
Mhm.
I think he's 2 for 2. I think that with this next project, because the cover art or the single art actually shows like this is a part of album 3. I think that if he can deliver like another quality album, like he might put himself up there with the top R&B acts of this new generation, because
Mm.
like he kind of checks all the boxes, kind of like how I was saying with Travis Scott. As far as his music, he's checking all those boxes. He kind of is low key, but as far as his music and the talent goes, I think that's speaking for itself, and this ATL freestyle kind of proves that.
Yeah, and he got that like that mysterious like the all the R&B. You got her walking around. She ain't never took shades off in her life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You just got that like well, you got that kind of mysterious vibe about you. You know, like I hardly know what he looked like. You know what I mean? Like I've seen him a
Yeah.
few times. I already know what he looks like. So he got that going for him. That's the same thing Weeknd had when he came out too.
Facts. And they still got that same dark, like mysterious, like you said, mysterious type of vibe. So I like it.
Sure. All right, so I'm gonna go. I got 2 more. I'm gonna go pretty quick on them. Both sides, featuring Lil Baby. That's with Gucci Man. They sound really good together, actually. Like I was actually surprised. I didn't think that would kind of mesh well. But Lil Baby, as I'm learning more about him, he can kind of flow. He can probably rap with the best of them, really. Like he can really when he gets in his bag. Now he always gonna be doing his shit, so that's fine. But when he gets in his shit, he can really go with the best of them. So Gucci Man, both sides featuring Lil Baby. And then this is my favorite one of the week as far as the drops, which is the R&B by Young Dolph featuring Meg Thee Stallion. Young Dolph, I feel like Young Dolph, how you feel about Moneybagg Yo?
Mm-hmm.
Like I really fuck with Young Dolph. Like I don't know why. I don't know if it's the flow, just something about Young Dolph always on his side when he drops something. So when it's something like this, I don't even need to defend it. Like this is a hard song. It's a sample off of something it's escaping me right now, but it's a sample. I can't. Do you know what it is?
I haven't even listened to be honest, bro.
Okay, yeah. So, it's a sample off of something. When you hear it, you can be like, "This motherfucker, he's stupid." So, because it's obvious what it is, but I can't think of it right now. But yeah, he went off. The hook is dope. Meg Thee Stallion, she came in, did her shit, got her shit off. Great song right there. Like I said, I'll be quick about them, but R&B by Young Dolph featuring Meg Thee Stallion, I would definitely go listen to that one. That's my favorite one of the week.
It's dope. It's dope. I'm trying to look up this sample, but
Anything? Nah,
I got nothing, boss.
yeah, don't worry about it. I don't even know how to say Spanish names.
Yeah. So we can move into these albums. I don't know how I want to sequence this, but I just got to go into Freddie Gibbs and Alchemist, man. That's by far my favorite album that came out this week in the past couple weeks. Freddie Gibbs and Madlib dropped my favorite album of 2019 with Bandana. And this is kind of following that same blueprint. Like Freddie Gibbs got with a producer. Alchemist, this is his second collab album of the year. Like he did Lulu with Conway the Machine earlier in the year. But this project is just phenomenal, man. Like Freddie Gibbs is proven to me to be one of my favorite rappers. Like I really didn't like or follow Freddie Gibbs when he first came out because just Jeezy was my favorite rapper, and then they went through their whole little thing, and I was like, man, if you ain't riding with Jeezy, I ain't riding with you. And then I kind of caught back up with him after he had that situation where he was arrested over in Austria, and then he got his charges thrown out, and then he came back and dropping like fire albums after that. And I just think every album since then, he's just been getting better and better and better and better. And this project is short, concise. I know you like short albums. It's only 10 songs, 35 minutes. Like, get to the point. Every song on there is amazing. The features on it are crazy. Rick Ross showed up and did his thing. Like I said, Tyler, the Creator, is everywhere. He showed up, did his thing. Benny the Butcher, you already know what to expect out of that. And then Conway the Machine actually showed up, but he got like more personal, like talking about not being in his kid's life and everything like that. So for everybody who thinks Griselda is just stuck in one lane, they don't really have any range. Like he was still able to come correct, give you good bars, but actually reveal a little bit something about himself. But ultimately, this is just up there with one of my top favorite albums as far as like West Side Gun, Boldy James, and this is just kind of like this is my type of music, real low key, like it's like Duce sipping music, you know what I mean? Like
Hell
suit
yeah.
on gangster type music. Like I like that. But yeah, I can't say it enough, man. Freddie Gibbs and Alchemist, Alfredo, one of the best albums of the year so far.
Yeah, I would agree. Do you like it better than Lulu?
I like it better than Lulu just because it's more songs and it sustains it over the amount of time.
That's fair.
Like this,
That's
like
fair.
man, the song he got with Rick Ross, Scotty Beam is dope. He got a song on there called Baby Shit. Oh man, I like the whole album. Like I can't
Well,
even.
we knew Freddie Gibbs was the one that's going. He more of my speed than Conway. Really, like the way he rapping, it's more palatable for for a lot of people than it is for So I'm rocking with that. I got one. My one album I want to talk about is Ace Hood. He dropped an album called Mr. Hood. Let's see, it's about 14 tracks, just about 43 minutes, so not too long. Ace Hood to me is again one of those people that I just like. Like I just like his music. I just like the way he raps. It's not too difficult. It's simple. It's simple. It's like you hear every bar. You know what it is. You know what it is he's trying to get off. You understand it as soon as you hear it. Like it's not like I have to. He's a lyricist still. Don't get it twisted. Like he's still a lyricist, but it's not a bunch of stuff that I got to really think about. He kind of reminds me of Jordan Lucas of that. Well, I should say Jordan Lucas reminds me of Ace Hood because Ace Hood's been out for a long time. He has his own hits, but they remind me of each other the way they rap because they both lyricists. They both rap real hard. Like you can hear the emotion in their raps, but it's not over complicated. It's not a bunch of, it doesn't always have to be fast paced. It doesn't always have to be a punchline that you got to think about for a little bit. It might be just, a simple line, but when they go back to back to back to back like that, it start to add up really quickly. So Ace Hood is somebody that I always like. This one, it's good. It's not great. I don't think it's his best work. That's what I would say. It's not really his best work. It's really good. I'm going to personally go back to it because I like Ace Hood. Like I'll listen. It has replay value for me, and that's what I'm looking for. But overall, if I had to like judge if like what people are going to think about it or anything like that, I would imagine it don't do very well.
That's the same opinion I had. Like without I don't really care for Ace Hood.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like ever since him and Khaled kind of went their separate ways, his music has always been missing something. And I think that it's not on him because his bars is always crazy. Like his concepts, his flows, his punchlines, they are always there. It's just something about the overall package just doesn't seem complete to me. And I think that's maybe coming up under Khaled for that whole time and having those big features and having those big songs and just having that produced sound. This album kind of feels like an up and comer to the point where it's like he reminds you of other artists. So it's like where Jordan Lucas, you can kind of see like he's arrived. His song or his album sounds polished. It sounds done. It sounds like it should be on the main stage. It sounds like an up and coming rapper trying to get on. And it's good music, don't get me wrong, but it isn't on the level of the Freddie Gibbs. It isn't on the level of a Jordan Lucas. It isn't on the level of Meek, which I think he has the talent to compete with those level of artists. It's just something is missing there. I don't know if it's just the production doesn't seem right. I don't know if it's the mixing or the mastering. I don't know if it's maybe the presentation isn't right, but I personally not going to go back to it just because I feel like for what he's making, there are better versions of it out there. And
he's a veteran, so the expectations are a lot higher than what this delivered.
Yeah, but he's a vet that he's not a top tier vet. He's kind of like an unspoken vet. Like, damn, he's still been in here for a minute, but he doesn't really get the respect he deserves.
Yeah.
He should be a household name, but he isn't.
He got to earn it, though.
That's what I'm saying. It feels like he's missing something. Like he still feels like an up-and-comer.
Yeah,
but it's not
I would
bad.
agree.
It's not bad.
No, it's not bad. No, but I mean, this is good criticism.
Yeah,
it's good criticism for when he has to reload and go back to it. So we'll see what he comes up with next. I mean, this just came out. Let me sit with it for a little bit, but it's pretty good. Give it a good solid 6.
If he signed with Ross, he'd be dope.
Ooh,
if he signed with Ross, that'd be the key.
That'd be a nasty squad, though.
Mm-hmm.
That'd
be the key right there.
That'd be a disgusting squad. People would sleep on that.
Yeah,
that's nice.
But my last album that I have is actually R&B. It's from Ro James. It's called Manic, and this album is phenomenal, man. This album is great. I don't know why I didn't really have any high expectations for it. Like I really liked his 2016 album, El Dorado, but I guess just because it's been so long and he's dropped off singles and EPs in the meantime, but once you drop a great project, you kind of have to live up to it. and it's like if it don't really hit the same way, I'm really not just gonna gravitate to it. So this was his first full length album since then, and like I was putting together a desk, I was like doing stuff and whatever, and I was just listening to it. I was like, oh, let me run this back. Oh, let me run this back. Let me run this whole thing back. And that's how I know I really like an album, when I continuously have to hear a song over and over again to the point where, all right, let me catch this whole album again, because I'm liking every song. I really like it. Me personally, my R&B playlist has just been dominated by women this year. Like, I've been addicted to Kiana Lede. I've been addicted to Alina Baraz. I've been addicted to a lot of women R&B this year, and I kind of felt like the top tier men just haven't been living up to the expectations, like the Party Next Door, the Weekends. So this album kind of like, all right, this is right back up there now. Like, all right, we kind of not that it is a competition, but just me personally, I think the one was just outperforming the other.
It's been lopsided for quite a bit.
It's super lopsided, especially like the past 2 years. It's not even close. You know, but I think this is dope. His voice kind of reminds me of Prince, but his sound isn't dated. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a direct ripoff, but you can hear the influence. Dope track. For R&B, I don't mind a lengthier R&B just because it isn't so redundant, and you can really, it's more mature music. So it is 15 songs, about 52 minutes, but I liked every song on there, man. So definitely a dope listen if you like some R&B.
I've been having a tough time this week. Trying to figure out what I like more out of the K Camp, the Division, and the Kiana Lede. I'm having a really tough time because I'll listen to one, I'll be like, oh, this the one. Then I'm like, let me listen to the other one. I listen to the other one, I'm like, this the one.
I just started listening to Kiana Lede's like bars. Bro, she was talking that talk, bro. She was giving bars on every single song, man.
And men will hurt you, and that's my favorite part.
Hurt your feelings.
They hurt your feelings and fuck them.
Fuck them all. I am a single queen.
I love that shit. That's my favorite part of the fucking album. Dog.
I hate that shit.
That shit good, dog. Oh, that album is so good though, man.
It's amazing, bro. It is
the Division.
amazing.
The Division album slapped though too.
Yeah, Division. The thing is, I expect it to slap, so that's why it's kind of like, yeah, they did what they're supposed to do. I think the Kiana Lede, I don't know her like that. I'm not familiar with her back catalog. I think that because it still feels new to me. Like, I feel like I don't know. Maybe I'm one of those hype beasts where it's like, if I feel like I found somebody, like when nobody was rocking with Division, like, oh, bro, Division, like nobody know about him. And now that he on like the main stage, it's like, all right, whatever, bro, he cool.
Yeah, chill. But yeah, but then I had the KK one is different for me because it's my type of music more.
Yeah,
like I don't know about more. I mean, I love all R&B, but it's kind of like that fine mix that he got between R&B and kind of rap. That just like he not really singing, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, he didn't go like full ballad. Like it's not like piano and shit. Like, he's still talking that.
Everything is catchy.
Yeah,
the whole album is catchy. Like every song is like this shit kind of ride. Like, oh, this song, we run this song back. Like it's tough. It's just awesome. I might have all three in my top 5 by the end of the year. The way it's looking.
Oh, absolutely.
Of both genres.
What you mean?
Just rap and R&B. Rap and R&B.
Oh, okay, got you.
I might have that shit in both. What's your top 5 right now looking like?
A rap?
Just the year albums.
I gotta split them up. I don't know because it'll be R&B. For R&B is Kiana, not in no order.
Yeah,
Kiana Lede, Division, Alina Baraz. I really like that album. K Camp, and probably I don't know. Right now it's probably Kehlani. But
that's what I was about to say.
That's definitely. She's not really holding it down. She's just like
I mean, it's just got to be there, because it's there. What about rap?
Rap, I got Westside Gun, Pray for Paris, this Alfredo album from Freddie Gibbs, Boldy James, The Price of Tea in China, phenomenal. Who else dropped? Rock Marciano and Stovetop Cooks. It's called The Reasonable Drought. And this is all kind of like a Griselda vibe. So that's just all.
You ain't got Joyner in there?
Nah.
Yeah.
Nah. Just because I felt like I heard the whole album. Like, yeah, it's
Had it
it's
not been for
good.
that,
Yeah, I give Jordan a 5.
I
give
love
him-
that album, dog.
I give him a 5. It's
I
just
love
I
that
heard like some of the songs came out in like 2018.
It's a lot of old songs.
Like I
Wow.
love was like 2018. Like ISIS with Logic or whatever. That was
Yeah.
2018. Like
We didn't do that with Lucky Day though.
yeah,
We didn't say that with Lucky Day.
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Got to keep the same energy.
Keep that same. Hey,
Keep
number
the same
5. There you go.
Yeah. Look at me, Camille. Look at me,
Look
Camille.
at that. Look at
Against your will.
this.
Then haven't we learned enough about consent? Damn it! You gonna put that out me your damn top. You gonna put that out me your top 5.
Bruh,
All right.
you got
Is that
me.
all you got, or you got another?
That's all I got.
All right.
I was gonna hit the Ace Hill, but you covered it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, we good. Yeah, I think that's all the music that I want to talk about. I tried Lil Bo, man. I tried, bro.
I didn't.
Anybody listening that's a Lil Bo fan, bro, we tried, bro. Well, I tried.
He did.
I did my
I saw one homie that I really trust his music. He a DJ in Philly, and he was like, "Hey, everybody went off but Lil Bo," and I checked it out, and that was TD, and I was like,
Yeah.
"All right, he didn't steer me wrong."
That was about all I needed to know. That's about all I. It's not for me. All right, man. Well, we talked about off air, but I'm gonna let you go ahead and set this up for us because this is the biggest topic. This is the only topic that we decided to talk about this week because we feel there's really nothing much that deserves the attention outside of this. But I don't want to get on a rant and get emotional or anything like that. So I know you provide the structure, so I'll bow. Let you structure it up then.
Yeah. So for those who have been under a rock, this is kind of like the only news story across the world as far as like what's going on in America right now. So obviously we're talking about the George Floyd incident, excuse me. George Floyd incident. And I'll basically set up the timeline of like what happened, how we got to this point, and then we kind of just want to have a conversation just because in times like these, conversation needs to be had, and it's not just conversation that goes around in circles, and we just want to make it as productive as possible. So I'll set it up, we'll have our conversation, and hopefully, we can grow from this moment. So for those who don't know the full backstory, on the 25th of May, police officers responded to a call about a customer allegedly paying with a counterfeit $20 bill. So the cops arrived to the scene, and George Floyd was actually still parked across the street because he was the person paying with the counterfeit $20 bill, but he didn't actually flee the scene. So once cops walked up to his car, they were talking about the incident, and they actually decided to take him out of the car and put him in cuffs. Now, there are conflicting reports. Some video has just surfaced out of it, but some people say that they drew their guns to take him out of the car. Some people say that there was a struggle, but there was some type of struggle to initially get George Floyd into handcuffs. But once ultimately he got into handcuffs, they did kind of, he started to comply, and there weren't that many issues. So once handcuffed, George Floyd let them know, hey, I'm claustrophobic. I really don't like being in small areas. So they sat him down. They started to talk through the incident, but ultimately decided that he was to get arrested. So once they try to move him into the cop car, that's when the issues happened. He started to tell them, I'm claustrophobic. I don't want to get into the car. And then a struggle ensued. Now, there are 4 officers there at the time trying to get him into the car. Again, some recent video just surfaced. It's kind of hard to see inside of the car, but it looks like they were actually like hitting him, beating him, trying to shove him into the car. But ultimately he fell because he didn't want to actually get into the car. Once on the ground, 3 of the 4 officers actually kneeled on his back to try to subdue him until medical care could arrive. One of the officers actually put their knee on his neck and held it there as he was on the ground. Now, George Floyd cried out like, hey, I can't breathe, with the officer saying that if you can talk, then you can breathe. And the officer held his knee on his neck for approximately 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And it took about 6 minutes of George Floyd to cry out saying, I can't breathe. Even at one point, he actually started crying out for his mom. And ultimately, he just went unconscious and he became unresponsive. So for over 2 minutes, that officer still had his knee on George Floyd's neck as he was laying unconscious. As the medics arrived on the scene, he released his knee from his neck. They started to check for a pulse from George Floyd, and they weren't able to find one. So he was ultimately pronounced dead once he arrived to the hospital. Once he arrived to the hospital, and he was he was dead from the event. So the 4 officers involved with the situation were fired the next day because of the video of the actual incident went viral, and the actual officer who actually knelt on George Floyd's neck was arrested on Friday and charged with murder and second-degree manslaughter. So since these videos have been circulating the media, since they've been circulating social media, a lot of riots, a lot of demonstrations, a lot of protests, a lot of social commentary have been happening, and that's kind of where we want to start this discussion. So
Yeah, I want
big deal.
let's see where we want to start. So I kind of want to talk about the process of the cop that was on his neck. Not so much about him. I don't want to say his name. I don't want to give him anything that he don't deserve, because he will get what he deserves. But I do want to talk about the process of him being there, because we do know since that this happened, he had 12 complaints in 20-year span. Now, I don't know anything about the way that they like determine whether what's acceptable and what's not, but 12 complaints without any type of discipline in 20 years means that somebody in his office knew that this guy was, I guess, a little radical at it, for lack of a better words. He shouldn't have been on the streets, let alone in our community. Let alone in our community. 12 complaints in 20 years means that at minimum, I understand he was probably near retirement or whatever, if they wanted to put him on desk duty or whatever, but any other job that you can think of, 12 complaints is a lot, right? Think about the Me Too movement. 12, if somebody had 12 women saying they sexually assault, that's all you would need to be indicted at minimum, right? So at minimum, he should have had some type of discipline within 20 years to have 12 complaints. So he should have never been there in the first place. Secondly, who trains this way? Now, I know that the police department came out and said that no one trains like this, right? No one says it's okay. But you got 3 people doing the same exact thing. One is a rookie. So one is either learning that, or he just learned that fresh out the blocks. The other 2 have been on the force for quite a long time. So I don't understand in what case. We already know that chokeholds, anything like that, anything restricting breathing is something that's frowned upon based off of the last Eric Garner. Am I mistaken? Eric Garner.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that any type of thing that restricts breathing should be taken out, right? That shouldn't be a thing at all, right? We know that once you get somebody under control, there shouldn't be any need for this, right? There shouldn't be any need for us to kneel on him or sit on him or anything like that. He's handcuffed. He's on the ground. It's 4 cops around him. We have the situation under control. Leave him there. Leave him be until the ambulance arrives. Because when the ambulance arrived, he didn't want to be in a little space. That'll be a bigger space. It'll be fine. Everything will be cool. And everything could have went on as is. That's how this should have went. But instead, we have people using these practices that the police officers, the police department say they have no idea where they came from. Well, I have a hard time believing that. I have a hard time believing that when you got 3 cops doing the exact same thing at the exact same time and no one is questioning it. You got the other cops sitting off to the side just watching. So if no one is questioning that, and you have people on the side, recording, you got their cams are on, you got people telling them like, hey, this dude is saying he can't breathe, all this, and they continue to kneel on this man. So they thought it was acceptable. That's an issue. It's an issue that they think that that's acceptable, period. Like that is something that can take someone's life. You're not, that's not your job. That's not what you're here to do. You're here to get this man to a courtroom or to a jail so he can have a fair trial for the crime that he was expected of committing. That's all you're here to do. That's how you protect and serve. You get criminals or suspected criminals off of the street and into a courtroom so they can sit through trial, a fair trial, and determine whether they committed the crime or not. That's all you're supposed to do. You are not there to execute anybody. You're not there to give any physical harm to anybody. You're not here for any of that. What you're here to do is get somebody to a courtroom or to a jail. That's all you need to do. So anything outside of that, you're now doing way more than you're supposed to do. You're now acting outside of being of your actual, like, your badge. So those type of things that is the kind of things that I look at when I start looking at this situation. Like, there's something wrong if people are thinking like that's okay. If they're moving under the assumption that I can kneel on this dude's neck, I can have this many complaints in 20 years, I can train this rookie to do the same when he gets older. Let alone the racism, just in general, like that's unacceptable to be had. It's unacceptable that he was in our neighborhoods. It can't happen again. So that's where I wanted to start with this. I don't know if you had anything to add on that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I really don't have too much in the way of like how it went down. I think we all can kind of come to a consensus. I think the mayor said it, the police department kind of spoke out, like this all around was wrong. From that aspect of it, I really think that it shouldn't be practiced to hire people that don't feel capable to handle themselves, as far as like if they're confronted with people that are bigger than them, or because I think that the issue, or where the initial fear was, is because George Floyd, he's about 6'6", 6'7". So if he's towering over all of the officers, that's just an initial type of fear that they have. So if they aren't equipped, or if they aren't mentally prepared to handle, or de-escalate a situation with somebody that's bigger than them, then that's an issue across the board. And I think the same thing happened with Eric Garner. You're dealing with a bigger person, that PTSD kicks in, because I'm sympathetic or empathetic to the fact that what cops do on a day-to-day basis is traumatizing. You know what I mean? You go into a situation and you have to kind of assume that your life is on the line with every decision that you make. So if you don't have that instinct to be mindful of that and to protect yourself, that could cost you your life. And living like that for months, years on end, I definitely think is traumatic in itself. So I do think that I understand, I don't condone, but I understand how cops get to this place. But I think that that is no excuse for these type of actions to happen. I think we need to do a better job as far as a community, and the police need to do a better job of trying to curbing them from getting to that point, because ultimately it leads to situations like this. Right.
So moving on from that, so we all understand the process is wrong. The way the whole thing was handled was obviously wrong. So now we kind of get to the reaction. And when I think about it, the first question I wonder was kind of like, what do you think would happen if the media like wasn't on top of this, really? Like, would there be so much of an outrage? And obviously there should be an outrage. Don't get me wrong. We should be outraged about a man dying. There's no doubts about it. Men should not be dying to cops. If they are, there was an injustice done, period. It's just not really very many situations I could think of that would allow this to be acceptable. There's no real reason. So that's what I would ask you to start out with. Like, what do you think would happen? Like, do you think that this would be so widespread? Because the media was very on top of this. This happened around 8:00. I think I was already seeing it about 1 my time when it happened.
Yeah, it's I think you'll cover this when you talk about your positivity shout out. But Killer Mike had an interview or he kind of gave a speech where he talked about CNN and how they need to do better, because so many, and it's not just CNN, it's Fox News, it's all the different news media outlets. So many people fearmonger day to day, and it's just like, if it's not one thing, it's another. Like, to the point where it's though everybody should be scared about the coronavirus, and now everybody should be scared about these murderous hornets bees. Now everybody should be scared about the economic collapse. Now everybody should be scared about this. And it feels like the media is just trying to manipulate people for more attention, more news, more clicks, more advertising money. And I really think that ultimately the cop that kneeled on George Floyd's neck is the ultimate person at blame here, but the media is right there with him. Oh, yeah. Like these things would not elicit such a reaction on a global scale if the media just didn't constantly perpetuate this fear-mongering mentality. This everything is a crisis. Everybody needs to be outraged. And I'll talk a little bit about this later, but the media has a big blame in the severity of the reactions because of this.
Absolutely. And then we seen, even to the point where they've gotten arrested for this. Like, they're willing to really be there on the front lines just to report this and spin it whatever way you want. It's really crazy because you can see the differences. Like, if you was to watch a CNN from a Fox, or at NBC or anything like that. They all have differences where they're all trying to spend some type of political gain on there, something that they want from their whatever side that they sit on, right? I've seen a lot talking about that this is a leftist thing as far as the riots go. Moving on a little bit to the riots, I've seen a lot about this is a lot of leftists. I've seen a lot of people saying it's really the white kids that are actually looting. I can't say for sure. I've seen a lot of videos that say that seen both sides of it. I've seen a lot of I guess maybe white 20-year-olds maybe looting and anything like that. I've seen some black people out there looting. So what do you think? Do you think there's any like is that valid to say that this is, some type of leftist thing that people that starting these riots?
I won't, because that's kind of like conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Land. I don't want to give any credence to that. To end the media thing, kind of like how you were saying, each media outlet has their own agenda. Like if you look up both, like if let's just say CNN and Fox News are the biggest media for the Democrats and Republicans. CNN, what happened with them on live TV, they were arrested, you know what I mean, and targeted, especially the black guy got arrested, but then some other white guy of the CNN crew didn't get arrested. And their whole spin of it was just to show you the government overreach and just showing you how people are being oppressed and, kind of fitting that narrative of victimization. And same thing, Fox News, while they were alive, they were actually attacked and targeted while they were out there covering, just showing you how wild thing is and the need for, government control and law and order. So I really don't trust either side. No. To be honest, when the homie got arrested on CNN, I immediately thought it was staged. I don't know, you know what I mean? Again, I don't want to give any credence to conspiracy theories, but I don't trust anything coming out of the media, to be honest with you. So my whole thing is to get to your point about is it started by, is this person starting at this person? I think to get back to the media point, everybody is trying to start this type of race war. Like this whole thing about racism, it just seems like a narrative that people keep building on. And I'll talk about this a little later when I talk about like my reactions and how we can move forward. We have it so easy that we don't know what it's like for it to be worse. We keep saying, oh, it's so bad. Nothing has changed in the past couple of years. This is not the 60s. This is not Jim Crow.
Not at all.
We've come a long way from that. And I think that there is a lack of leadership. And because people don't know how to be leaders, they just copy and paste what's been done before. But you can't do that without the conditions that happened from before. So they try to artificially create these conditions of oppression and artificially create these conditions in which more law and order is needed without the reasons to do so. So I think it's really just a lack of leadership, lack of journalistic integrity, and a mass of people who don't have a long attention span, who won't see through the kind of the veil that they throw over. And
they're not thinking for themselves. They definitely not thinking for themselves out there. And that's why the media,
it's a big equation of everything going wrong.
And that's why the media has so much control, because people are not thinking for themselves today. Like they're seeing what they see on social media, the news. A lot of people I see get information from like Twitter and stuff like that. All that stuff could be manipulated, bro. And if you listen to that and you take that for face value as what it is, it's entertainment, right? That's what it really is. That's what it's supposed to be, entertainment. You're not supposed to be looking at that and say, this is the absolute truth. This is what I believe. You look at how you actually gauge that is you look at a bunch of different sources, then you compile that together, and then you form an opinion about it. You form your own opinion about it. If your opinion goes to, hey, I need to go outside and protest, which a lot of people were peacefully protesting. So we're not just saying, like, I want to be clear on that, because there were a lot of states that were states and cities that were actually just peacefully protesting. The media will have you think that this is just the whole United States is on fire. That's not what's happening right now. I do want to get to, I know we're moving on a little bit, but I do want to get to, since we're still kind of talking about media, President Trump's tweet. I think it's extremely dangerous. Like, I think it was extremely dangerous. When I read it initially, I was a little bit offended myself. I don't really get too caught up in what he says, because I think this is what he do. He's kind of an idiot. I've seen a lot of comparisons from this tweet from when there was like the white, supremacist movement that was going on. I think was that in Ohio? I'm not 100% sure where that was.
Charlottesville.
Charlottesville.
Yeah.
And so we seen this time he's calling people thugs and saying, hey, when the looting starts, the shooting starts, which is the part that I think is incredibly dangerous. Thugs is a word that media has kind of been thrown around a lot lately. People say it's racist. I'm not here to debate that. I'm just saying I think it's wrong to call these people thugs. You calling other people nice people. When you're the president of the United States, this is not the way you should move. But this is why we should go out and vote, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and kind of how we can change this tide. But do you have any thoughts about President Trump tweet?
I think people are assigning and paraphrasing too much. Like the exact tweet is, these thugs are dishonoring the memory of George Floyd, and I won't let that happen. Just spoke to Governor Tim Walz and told him that the military is with him all the way. Any difficulty and we will assume control. But when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Thank you. Now, he cleared it up saying that he was talking about once looting starts, then people start getting shot amidst the looting. That's when the chaos erupts. So I don't really want to go too far into this because a lot of people look at the president with their own preconceived notions. And when you talk about how he calls one group of people thugs and another group of people good, when you talk about Charlottesville specifically, he specifically said, I want to condemn white supremacists. I want to step out and say, I do not support and I want to condemn the actions of the white supremacists. But there were good people out there protesting. For this tweet, he was specifically talking about people looting, which I don't think does anything to seek justice for what happened to George Floyd.
Not at all.
A lot of people already have a preconceived notion of this, so you can take bits and pieces of this tweet and kind of form your own opinion of it. And if you have that cognitive bias where you only see what you want to see, if you want to see this as racist, you can frame it to be racist. If you want to see this as inconsiderate, you can see that it's inconsiderate. But it's a lot of false equivalencies being placed on this tweet and how he's responding to other people. Like a lot of people talk about when the people in Michigan stormed the state office because they wanted the lockdown to end. And he said that these people are fed up, and they was like, oh, well, he didn't say anything about these thugs with guns going into the state house with guns and all that. They were thugs. And it's like, well, they didn't break anything. They weren't looting anything. Nobody was harmed in that event. So there's no need to call them thugs. When people are breaking into, burning down businesses, that is an action of a thug. You know what I mean? He didn't specifically say these black thugs. He didn't anybody committing these acts. But if you already have that preconceived notion that he's talking about black people, then you'll say that. So I don't buy in. I don't subscribe to that tweet being racist or that being, I just think that's a media war going on there.
I do think it's dangerous in a couple of different ways just because of how it was phrased, but he did come out after and clear it up. So I can agree upon that. So, what are your reactions to the riots exactly?
So I had 3 reactions. So initially I was disappointed. So when it first started out, because I thought like, all right, here we go again. You know, we always react like this. And when I say we, just mean like the black community, but other people were involved in it. And I don't want to seem like I'm just talking to or about the black community, but I think those are the people that are most affected by this tragedy. And when we riot, when we loot, we only hurt ourselves, because not only are you, one, committing a crime, now you're giving justification for you to be put in a situation that George Floyd was just put into, but you're also validating the negative stereotypes that these quote unquote racist people that you're fighting against, or you're seeking justice, or you're seeking them not to oppress you anymore. You're only justifying their negative stereotype of you when you act like this. So I really don't think that is any benefit to you conducting yourself in that manner. In 2017, I was doing some research. In 2017, there was an unarmed 60-year-old Chinese man by the name of Jianxing Chen, right? And he was shot and killed in Virginia outside of a clubhouse because he was quote unquote trespassing. So ultimately, he was playing Pokemon Go around midnight. He was like in a battling tournament, and the security guard was coming up to him and trying to tell him to leave. But Mr. Chen didn't speak English, so he just put his car in reverse and he tried to leave. But the officer, they had some miscommunication. He thought that Mr. Chen was backing up and was going to ram him with the car, so he shot him 10 times. Because of that incident, the people of the Chinese American civil rights movement had some demonstrations, had some protests, peacefully protested, signed some petitions, sent it to their lawmakers, sent it to their police chiefs, and it took 2 years. But the man who shot Mr. Chin got convicted and sentenced to 30 years in jail. There were no riots. There were no looting. There wasn't anything. They just showed up. They organized their protests in the correct way. All they did was like set off some car alarms, hold up signs, and it took 2 years of consistency, and that man was charged and convicted. So, in my opinion, what's wrong with that? That's how I think that we should ultimately go about that. So that was my initial opinion. My second reaction was I started to empathize with people that was expressing themselves, because ultimately this country was founded on a rebellion. Ultimately, this country was founded on a rebellious spirit of government overreach, and we will not accept that. When you talk about LGBTQ rights, it used to be a crime to be homosexual. And there was some riots by the name of the Stonewall riots back in 1969. And basically there was a Stonewall bar that the mafia owned, and that was the only place in New York to where people of that community could come, congregate, be themselves. Like people could cross-dress, and trans men and women would come and do their thing. And ultimately one night in 1969, the cops came in and started arresting people and started beating them up, to the point where everybody just started revolting, beat up the cops, forced them back into the bar, and started lighting the bar on fire. Every Pride parade that happens today is on the anniversary of those Stonewall riots. Because of those riots, because it gained such national prominence, people in the LGBTQ community started to get rights. They started to make moves, so much to the point when in 2016, Barack Obama named that the site of the Stonewall riots a national monument. So good things can come out of a riot. There could be a spark, such as the American Revolution, to start and go down a path to where we will no longer accept this, such as the Stonewall riots, to say this was the spark, this was the date in which we decided that this is no longer going to be tolerable. So I'm not against rioting if you have a kind of a plan of action afterwards. So I'm not totally against that. So I'm not so disconnected to where I can't see the bigger picture in that regard. But then as time go on, my third reaction is, it's as more and more video pops up, as more and more protests across the country, this doesn't seem like it's about George Floyd anymore. It starts to seem like it's something about revenge. And I'm not too naive to the fact that we are in the midst of a global pandemic. So many people have lost their jobs. So many people have just been sitting in the house for the past couple months, nothing to do, struggling, thinking about their next meal. And this was just the straw that broke the camel's back. And now everybody's just figuring out a way to retaliate against the country that's just been systematically been oppressing them. But this isn't about George Floyd anymore. So masking all of this looting, all of this rioting, all of this destruction, like burning down a Target, does nothing to honor the name of George Floyd. You know, right. Looting and burning down a Starbucks and stealing sneakers and stealing jewelry, that does nothing. That's a personal thing. So yes. I don't want to condemn people that are doing that, because I understand the gravity of this moment and what it represents, and the statement that needs to be made that this should not continue. But I also want to highlight the fact that we cannot keep acting this way without a plan of action when other ways are successful in the case of a Mr. Chin, and we have to be able to kind of speak to what should be done here on out.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So I'm gonna just try to add on to a little bit if I can. So the first thing that I want to think about, or say, I should say, is I'm trying to figure out the goal, right? What is the goal when you go out and loot? Just trying to get into somebody's mind, because what I don't want to do is condemn, because I can't, just because I react a certain way to something, I can't expect you to react the same way. If you react with anger, then that's okay. I just want to understand what the anger is about, right? So everybody should be at least somewhat angry. That's not driving me to the street to go tear up somebody else's store that has nothing to do with anything. I don't really understand what we stand to gain with that, because only thing I could think of is it's very counterproductive. It's extremely counterproductive. For one, it's your own home, right? It's a place where you live, a place where you may shop. Anywhere in that, when you do that, you're hurting your own economy in your own place, right? Not saying that Target even came out and said that, hey, like, we can easily rebuild that store. I still stand with protesters. This is just a little bit out of line. So there's nothing more counterproductive than this. If the goal is to make sure that we have justice or freedom or whatever the case you may be. There's a thousand activists out there that can speak onto that more than me about what goals and what we should be trying to hit. There's people out there, right? Black people, their Black community has leadership. Whether you choose to follow or not, that's dependent on you. None of them are perfect, but they all have good points. Some of them have a firm hand. Some have a little bit of a looser hand. And I'll talk about that a little bit more with my positivity shout out. But this is just adding to a fire for real racists to say, like, see, look at what they're doing. You see that? This is why we treat them the way we do. That's what that does in reality. It's blunt. It may not be what people want to hear, but that's what you're doing. You add into a fire people that already consider you a thug, that already consider you bad. And this is the same thing that happened last time with the shooting in Texas. When the Black Lives Matter protest happened, the police came with all this military grade gear. A police officer ended up getting shot. Like, it all fell on Black Lives Matter as if Black Lives Matter was some type of terrorist group. It's the same thing now. Like, it looks like Black Lives Matter is tearing up different cities. That's not what's happening. But from the outside eyes looking in, that might be what they think. It's all about perception. So why even give them the fire to, why even give them the wood to start that fire? Start that type of fire about your community. It doesn't make sense. Peaceful protests have been happening. I would argue that there's more peaceful protests than there is these riots. It's just that the riots are what is getting broadcast out to the masses. So that's what it would drive you to think that this was happening. Like I said earlier, like United States is on fire. So you brought up a couple good points about what we can do. Like what do we want to do? They also brought up a lot of good points in Atlanta about like, this is what we need to do. And I think Atlanta is a great example of what we should be striving to do. Atlanta to me when I look at it more and more, from the cops, from the chiefs, from the deputies, from judges, from their Supreme Court, to all the way up to their mayor, all the way down to the Black leaders that they have in there. They're all respectable people. They all have something that I can learn from. Again, nobody's perfect, and no example is perfect, but that's a good one to go about, right? And how did they get that done? They went out and vote. It sounds simple. It sounds like it's nothing that can be done. It sounds like that's a long-term goal, but things like this take time. Slavery didn't end in a snap of a finger. Like even like the Boston Tea Party, like that happened, but there was a long build up to that and a long wait after until everybody got what they wanted. Like things take time. This is just a temporary thing that you're doing when you go out looting. We need to think about something that's going to take the time and actually have a plan. Like we talked about last week, we need to bring agendas to people and tell them what we want. Don't ask them what they can do for us. Tell them this is what you need to do for me, or you're not going to get my vote. If you can't fulfill these things, then we're not going to get behind you. And that's how we need to move. That I think it's simple.
Yeah, I agree. Voting is definitely a key factor in this moving forward. But
only reason I say that is because this cop is getting arrested. This cop is going to be charged.
Yeah, he has been. And
this is a close. This is going to be this. There's no way that this cop goes free.
Yeah, and that's one thing I forget to mention, because I got two different strategies of how I think. And again, it's not perfect. I'm nobody. The whole concept is this is who am I? It's just my opinion. But we have to understand how the justice system works. Like the fact that they were fired immediately, all four of them, the next day, that's a win in itself. It's not going to solve the problem. It's not going to bring George Floyd back, but that's a win. The fact that less than a week later, the man was charged that was kneeling on George Floyd was charged with murder and aggravated assault, I believe it was, or manslaughter, murder and manslaughter. Like that's a win. You know what I mean? And we should keep applying pressure. Like I was talking about the case of Mr. Chin, that took 2 years. The fact that these are happening within a week, that's progress. That's success. The fact that the mayor is coming out and saying that, I condemn this. I don't agree with this at all. Mayors, governors around the country are saying, I stand with the protester. That's a win. So we got to be able to understand, like, we can't keep moving the goalposts to always be oppressed. Like, no, good stuff is happening in the midst of this.
Yeah.
And I agree. Voting is a key point in that. But I think it's two different strategies we can employ, just because I'm tired of people just stepping on a platform to just get people mad again. I hate that. I really do hate that. I think they are a part of the problem. Point blank period. I don't care. No celebrity, no
Mhm.
elected official. If you're stepping up and you're just saying something to add fuel to that fire, you're a problem. You're a part of that problem. So I think it's two different ways we can approach this. I think it's a defensive method, and which is kind of like in the short term, which we can start enacting immediately. And I think it's a long-term strategy. The ultimate long-term strategy, like you mentioned, is voting. But what I'm going to talk about is more about self-preservation. So my number, and none of this applies to George Floyd specifically or any other instances specifically, but it's just how I avoid any confrontation with the cops, and I think we can apply this. So rule number one for the defensive strategy, don't commit any crimes. It may seem stupid to say, but you can't expect a system to work for you if you are operating outside of that system. As soon as you commit a crime, you waive all rights, and now you increase that chance of this situation going bad. If you conduct yourself in a way where you don't commit a crime, the justice system is there to protect you. Once you start committing a crime, the justice system is there to convict you. That's a big distinction that we need to make. So don't commit a crime, point blank, period. Rule number two, we need to establish community criminal defense lawyers and have them on retainer. Now, if you are able to afford a criminal defense lawyer to have them on retainer, by all means do that for you and your family. But some people can't afford a criminal defense lawyer. Now, those retainers go up anywhere from $2,000 up to $50,000. I would just say we can plan for the worst case scenario. A community of people can come together and raise $50,000 so that a lawyer can be on retainer. That way, if somebody does get arrested, they follow rule number one, so they didn't commit a crime. So all they need is a defense lawyer to actually come in and make sure that their situation is handled. We got that covered. Gail, if you don't have that money, if you have $50,000, go ahead, get 50 people together to raise $1,000 each. If you need more people, get 100 people, get $500 together. But there are business practices or lawyer that are practicing community criminal defense. So come together, build a community, say we're about to raise this money so that if any of us get arrested, we know we got a lawyer, we can have them handle the situation. We don't need to go crazy. So we can get criminal defense attorneys.
That's a great point.
Rule number three, don't resist any arrests and don't make any police interaction confrontational. You didn't commit a crime if you follow rule number one, and you know you have a criminal defense lawyer to speak for you on your behalf, and anything you say can and will be used against you. So don't resist, even if you're being wrongfully convicted or arrested, or not convicted, but arrested, especially not. Go get processed, handle it. This should be a minor inconvenience because you didn't commit a crime and you have a lawyer there to come and bail you out and work your case. If ultimately it comes out that you were wrongfully arrested, you can be reimbursed for any inconvenience that occurred to you. That's what the criminal defense attorney is there for. So if you're not committing a crime, you have somebody to argue on your behalf. Don't become combative because, again, that goes back to rule number one. As soon as you start violating the rules between you and that officer, they are now justified. I don't condone it, but that's what creates the situation in which people get killed and people get hurt during these police interactions. So don't resist or make any interaction with the police confrontational. And for my last rule for defense, travel in groups of at least 3. So we have, if somebody is getting harassed, if somebody is getting arrested, that's the one person, that's the main focal point. Second person should only be there to video the entire case. As soon as the police interaction occurs, that person should get back to a good vantage point and record the entire event. A lot of these instances where cases aren't being solved or they are being solved is if they have video. If we're just relying on the video to come from that body cam, we can't rely on that. But if we have somebody who's there from the entire interaction, captures everything on film, then we know that we have that evidence to work and we can hand that off to our criminal defense lawyer. The third person should be there ready to intervene if any medical needs or if any safety needs need to be handled. In the event that somebody is kneeling on that person's neck and they think that they're about to die, that third person is going to be there to step in and actually put their life on the line to protect their brother there, because ultimately we don't need to lose that person. And if we have so many people standing by that's not willing to do something, if you are in that group of 3, that should be your job, because there's too many people standing around recording and not enough people jumping in and intervening. So if you have a group and you have that understanding of, hey, if I go down, you're going to be the one that's recording, you're going to be the one that jump in, then you should be, safe in that regard, because you're following the other rooms. You're not committing crimes. We know we got a lawyer, and then we're not going to resist if anything happens. So if you do intervene, you will be justified, and we're going to have that on camera. So ultimately, that's what I think is our defense, a defense plan that we can implement that immediately affects this type of interaction between us and cops. Now, I do have an offensive plan that'll be a lot longer, but I don't want to.
Oh no, I'm no. You giving me game at this point? I'm listening. I'm listening because this is all. It's all reasonable.
Right.
Those are all reasonable rules. None of what you said is something that's difficult. We can all implement that right now, simply. Like
exactly.
A lot of people would already be behaving in that manner. Besides the second one, but a lot of people are probably already traveling in groups of 3, not committing crimes and not resisting. That's your best bet. Limit police interaction, not even really just interaction, but confrontation. Like limit the conflict, and then that's how we'll be better. Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, hit me with the long one.
So this is going to be, and it's not necessarily specific to police officers, but this is just what I think our community will benefit from, because this is ultimately kind of like the person that knows how to fight isn't going around looking for a fight. So what we need to do is kind of equip our community to handle these things so that we're not so ready for a confrontation with the police. That's kind of my philosophy behind it. So first and foremost, for an offensive perspective, is to legally register to carry a firearm and learn how to get proficient to operate a firearm. Now, this isn't to go out and attack police. I want to make that very clear. This is not training so that you can go to war. But once you learn how to operate a weapon, once you know the power of a weapon, once you know that you have the ability legally to carry a weapon, you are going to be avoiding any of these confrontations. You will be avoiding attacking or interacting with a police officer because you know you are protected in your right. All right. Once you have that weapon, go ahead and start researching and knowing your laws in your state from how to protect yourself. What is the applicable use of force? If that's deadly force, are you in a stand your ground state, so that you know the laws? If you do ever have to use that weapon, how you need to use it. Like me, I know myself, I have my license to carry, but in Ohio, I have a duty to retreat. So even if I feel threatened, I have the obligation to at least try to make an effort to run away before I use my weapon. Now, if I was in a stand your ground state, I could immediately use my weapon if I thought that I was under direct threat or if my life was in danger. So we have to know the law in that way so we can, 1, be equipped, know how to use it and be proficient in it, and 2, know how we can do it the right way and the legal way. 3, I think we need to steer more Black youth into the police department, into the justice system, into being lawyers, because we do so much once this stuff happens and we get mad about, oh, there's no representation. But we do not encourage representation. As soon as somebody joins the police force, oh, now they're a sellout. No, we need more people in the police force. We need more real people from our environment, people from our community, people that know our circumstances. Because if you know me and I'm a police officer and we need to have a tough conversation, we know that it's not going to get past the point where I'm going to threaten your life. You still my homie. We still grew up together. We still have some type of bond here. There's still a level of respect here. Even if it's just another Black person or a team of Black people going into a Black neighborhood that understands the struggle and that invisible wall between the Black community and the cops, that will ease tensions right away. We need more Black lawyers that are familiar with these laws, that are familiar with these cases. We need more Black judges actually sitting in and actually judging what's actually going on so that they can look it through from their eyes, so they see, from a non-biased perspective, but also from a realization of this is the reality of being a Black person in America. We need more Black district attorneys. We need more Black people involved in this whole process. So instead of steering them to be a rapper, instead of steering them to be an athlete, instead of steering them to be an entertainer in some way, we need to start steering these Black youth into being involved in the criminal justice system. And in line with that, my 4th step is we need to start holding our entertainers, our rappers, our athletes more accountable for what they're doing on their platform.
Absolutely.
So I'm okay with you coming out and speaking on an incident, but what are you going to do? What are you going to provide? Anybody can post a meme. Anybody can post a video. Anybody can come out and say, yo, you should be mad. Everybody is mad already. I don't need you to tell me. But what you're doing is just pouring more gasoline on that fire. I'm a nobody, but I'm able to think through, okay, what is going to benefit this community? Okay, what am I going to do about it? And actually do something. Some of these athletes, and again, they don't owe us anything. They don't owe me anything. They worked hard for their money. They deserve their money. I'm not saying I'm owed anything. But if you really going to step up on your platform and say that you care about this community, how about you buy that corner store? How about you buy that bodega in that neighborhood? Because if that is a Black-owned business, maybe that interaction wouldn't have been to the police for a fake $20 bill. Maybe that could have been, you know what, bro, this is fake. And until you get back on your feet, you owe me $20. But I'm not gonna call the cops, and we're gonna have that understanding between us. Maybe that could make a difference. But for a celebrity to get on a platform and just continually spew out hate and continually to draw that divide between white people and Black people and racists and whatever, like continue to perpetuate that there is a war going on, that is a very dangerous way to use your platform. And I don't respect that. Honestly, I really don't respect that. Unless you're going to come with some answers, I don't need the voice just for the sake of having a voice. We need answers. We need leaders. And if you on that stage, whether you like it or not, you are considered a leader. And we need to start holding those leaders accountable. And then ultimately, I think we need to build a community. I said it a little bit before, we need to start moving as groups, but we have no sense of community until things like this happen. Until somebody gets murdered and we can come together, until a funeral happens, that's when everybody comes together. But afterwards, we all scatter apart until another situation like this happens. We need to invest in our communities. I think it starts with getting that community defense lawyer. It can start with becoming starting a community agricultural center where we can use our backyards, use our front lawns to start growing crops and actually buy some property together or buy an open vacant lot in the community and actually start farming together, actually get some chickens out there, get some tomatoes, get whatever out there, and actually build a community. Stop becoming so reliant on these big businesses to the point where we feel oppressed by them and we have to go out and riot and loot them, and now we don't have any place to buy our groceries. We need to stop being so dependent on outside sources to where we feel like every interaction we have with them is oppressive in nature. But if we have that system in our community, we don't need to interact with anybody that isn't for that community. Also, if you have any skills, go ahead and use that in your community. When I was growing up, we had a dude in my hood named Mr. Larry. If you needed your oil change, you needed to change a tire, you needed your brake fluids replaced, you needed to change your brakes or whatever, you call Mr. Larry. Mr. Larry going to come down to your house. He's going to help you out. You get the supplies. He's going to teach you something. You give him some money. You give him some food or whatever. He good to go. If you know how to work on cars, go ahead and start helping everybody in the community and start helping them out with their cars. If you good with finances, go ahead and start reaching out to your community and making sure everybody finances good. We need a sense of community, and not only in the sense of, oh, somebody got killed, something needs to happen. Like, that's my long-term strategy, bro.
You came to goddamn pod today, man. I tell you that. You came to goddamn pod today, man. I'm glad to hear it, man. That was great. That was great. I couldn't add anything. I couldn't have said it better myself. That was an amazing breakdown. Depending on what you want to do, which defensive or offensive, like you said, you broke it down to them perfectly. I personally do feel like we have leaders. I do.
They exist.
I think they exist. I think that some people don't know how to follow properly and they follow the wrong things. That's kind of what my thing is. But I do think I get tired of the media questioning Black leadership. It just annoys me. I feel like we do have people that are intelligent, that do articulate a good stance, that echo the plans that you just laid out. But whether you're hearing it or not, that depends on you. Whether you would rather follow somebody like that or somebody like Future or whoever you want to, that's cool. That's on you. That's your decision to make. Just know that you can't blindly follow anybody. That's the problem. You can't blindly follow anybody. So
yeah, and I think we need to highlight the leaders that actually have something to say. Like, okay, this is what we need to do. I think that was a mistake in my articulation. Like, yes, they are leaders and they need to be highlighted. The ones that actually have plans. Like, anybody can get up here and complain. Anybody can get up here and say this is wrong. But who are the people actually saying this is what we need to do? And I think that kind of goes into your positivity shout out as well.
And that's shout out to people that's doing this.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest thing. Shout out to people that's actually doing this, not just the biggest ones. And the people that are, we shout out anybody from LeBron James to Jay-Z, all the way down to people at the local hospitals just doing whatever good things that they can do. Positivity shout out is for this reason. Like let it be known that this man right here is doing great things. Like let it be known that this woman right here, she's doing great things. Like regardless of what you're doing, where you're doing it at, or how big of a scale you're doing it at, that's what the positivity shout out is. So for this one, I got Killer Mike. So Killer Mike always seems to, I know it sucks that I have to say it like this, but when any type of situation like this happens, his voice is something that always seems to go viral very fast. Whatever he says, right or wrong, whatever you think about it, whatever he says always seems to come to the forefront immediately. Now, I think that he always speaks very well. I think he always does a great job on speaking on this topic. He's not too firm and radical to where you would think like, oh, this dude tripping. He's not too weak to say like, okay, we can't just agree with everything that we got coming to it. I think he plays a good role right in between. When that's where my mindset would like to go to. So in this clip of the interview that he had, which is with T.I., it was with the mayor. There were a couple other people there as well, which is a big deal, right? He's working with the mayor in order to try to stem the tide here. But he's talking about why it is so counterproductive to burn your own home. He's talking about why we should be sitting here trying to strategize about what's the next plan, what's the next move, instead of actually just reacting. He talks about the things that we talked about here today on this podcast that I agree with, that I echoed. And so that's why, to me, he's one of the leaders that I will look to whenever I'm thinking of calculating a plan. Whenever I'm thinking of what exactly is this? Like, what should I think about this? Like, what kind of concepts should we run in order to counteract this? He has very good points to make about these things. Now, again, that goes with don't blindly follow. If there's something I disagree with, then I'm going to say I disagree with it. And I'm going to find another way to go around it. But until then, just going off of what the media says or what somebody else says, it's just a bad way to go. But positivity shout out goes to Killer Mike, because again, his voice always comes through. That it is always comes through. It's always there when you need it. And he's always called to. He even started this thing saying like, yo, I don't want to be here. Like, this is not where I want to be. This is not where I want the Black community to be, but I'm here because I have to be. And I love that. So shout out to Killer Mike.
Yeah, that's a real leader right there. That's a real leader. Just by even saying like, I don't want to be here. I recognize I have to be here. I wish I had something to say to make this all go away. I wish I had something to say to make this better, but I don't.
Bro,
And
sacrifice.
Sometimes that's what we need to hear. We need the truth. But even then, even we need to even by staying in, you should be organizing. Even by staying in, we should be strategizing. Even by staying in, like that's a leader right there. That's a leader. So I respect that a lot. So I wanted to highlight an Atlanta officer, just keeping it in Atlanta. They haven't confirmed his first name, but he's been going viral in the video. But Officer Z Murphy. So basically, a bunch of protesters were in Atlanta during their demonstration, and they were confronted by a bunch of officers. So a bunch of people were in Atlanta. They were demonstrating. Officers were there, and apparently there was just some discourse in there. So Officer Z Murphy walked up to the group and specifically said, I have a son who's 31. I have a son who's 15, and I have these conversations with him all the time. What's going on here is wrong, and that's why I brought it to a stop. Speaking to the crowd being harassed by a bunch of cops. He said all that loudspeaker, that yakking, and all that yapping, we put it to the stop. So basically, the people said, hey, we appreciate that. He said, we said, pause, let these people remain here, let them stay on the street, let them express their grievances because they have a right to be pissed off. And then that grew some more attention. And everybody was like, yo, we respect that. Why can't everybody else think that way? And he said, one person at a time. One person at a time. I told the people that was harassing y'all, they need to shut the fuck up, but one person at a time, y'all. I'm doing my part. Y'all do y'all part. Y'all have a right to be here. Y'all have a right to have y'all grievances, but one person at a time. And you can kind of see it spewing out in that video. Even that wasn't enough to some people. And they was like, well, we want him to say it. And we want him to say it. Yeah. And he was like, yo, one person at a time. Y'all got me. All right. Dapped them up, pounding them up. Y'all got one person doing it. And sometimes that's all it takes. You know, sometimes that's all it takes for you to diffuse a situation. Sometimes that's all it takes for somebody to see, like, you know what, I want to be a cop like that. Sometimes that's all it takes for us to realize that it's people behind those badges. We often look at cops as like they're just some alien force here. Like, no, that's people, bro. Some of these people are good people. So I don't want this situation to just kind of balloon out of control where everybody is, you're either a racist cop or you're a radical extremist, and it's like no in between for us to be human beings at the end of the day. So I just want to highlight Officer Z Murphy for just being a human being and understanding the situation and being one of the people that I do respect that wear the uniform.
Yeah, it's such a powerful clip. I think that what's crazy about like positive stuff and love, like things like that, because I watched that and immediately got pretty happy about the situation, how it was going. I think that like the negativity spreads because the media pushes it. Positivity and love, it don't really need much. Mm-hmm. Like, you ever just tried to talk to somebody with a smile instead of like being upset? Like, just talk.
It's
just
impossible.
It's so when somebody come up to you smiling, happy or whatever like that, trying to talk to you, ask you how your day, it's hard to talk to them like you upset. It's hard to be upset around them. It's just like simple things like that positivity, that love, it spreads easily. It's natural. Like, right? That's kind of why we do this. That's why we do this. Like, spread that positivity out. And I do want to, I have been seeing one thing, Chris Rock, the joke that he had about maybe a few years ago about like, you know, some jobs, they just can't have bad apples. You know what I mean? You just can't have it, bro. And that was a joke, but that was so serious, bro. Some jobs you just can't afford to have bad apples, bro. And those are the type of things we need to get out. We need to get away from. We got to get out of the police force. You can't. It's not acceptable, right? It's not acceptable to be a bad cop. Everybody's talking to bad cops. There should be no bad cops. Like that's what we need. That's how we should be going. So
yeah. He said like pilots don't get to say, well,
yeah,
most of our pilots like to land.
Yeah, like what the fuck, bro? Like, can you imagine like a goddamn a doctor like just like shit, man. I actually cut his heart open. Yeah.
Most of the time that don't happen, but you know this time is just
like,
bro.
you know what I'm saying? Like, bro,
Speaking of bad food, yo. So we ain't covered the Last Dance last week, but if I eat a bad apple and I have a bad podcast, can we call it the Flu Podcast?
Oh, we definitely. Well, you actually supposed to have a good. Nothing. You had a bad. You had a bad. You supposed to have a good pod. You supposed to have a good pod, and then we move. And then we call it the flu game.
But I ain't gonna lie about it though. So it's like, all right, it's gonna be the opposite now. So it's like,
you should have said today you had a we'll just you know what, we're gonna cut it back in and just say that you had ate something bad because you was on your shit today. So then we can say,
all right, so we're gonna call it the bad one, and then we're gonna lie, and then when they make the Who Am I documentary, I'm like, actually,
come on, bro.
I just ran out of water and I was a little thirsty.
Come on, who am I, bro? Who am I, bro? We just nah, come on, bro. Somebody pay the man, bro.
Pay that man.
Somebody pay the man, bro. All right, man.
All right, well,
it's been great. I love this great pod, man.
Definitely a good episode. Definitely want a lot.
Yeah, not something I wanted to talk about. Like Good Mike said, not something I want to have conversations about. But because I feel like if we go back into our episodes, I feel like we've discussed the same exact thing before. So
yeah, even when I think we highlighted Killer Mike's documentary series, True Warning, and this came up. So
this is not the first time he's received positive shout out.
Absolutely, but like I said, the point of us having this conversation was hopefully to have some type of productive conversation. Like hopefully you walk away listening or watching this conversation and you think, you know what, maybe it's something I can do, or maybe, you know, something I wasn't thinking about. That's ultimately the power of conversation. And I guess us trying to use the media platform in a more positive light and just acknowledging the negative, not necessarily harping or spreading the negativity, but ultimately trying to find a silver lining and the positivity in it. So we appreciate everybody for tuning in. Appreciate you for listening, watching. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on all social media platforms at the Who Am I Podcast, Instagram and Facebook at the Who Am I Pod on Twitter. Got the YouTube channel up and going, so go ahead and follow the Who Am I Podcast on YouTube. Download the Anchor app if you want to listen or be involved in the podcast. It's also available on other streaming services such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can find them. And ultimately, yeah, we just want to say thank you for tuning in each and every week.
Yeah. If you like those plans that my brother came up with, man, go ahead and share that, man. Share that with somebody else, bro. I'm telling you.
You know, hey, we just out here, bro.
Who am I, bro?
Bro. It's the Nip poster. That's what
this is the Nip poster guy here.
It's the Nip.
It's the Nip. I'm about to get me a Nip. You know what? I'm a one up because I'm gonna have my Nip poster like way closer, like oddly close to my face, because I feel like the closer it is, like the better I'll be. So
I told you the Nip, dog. It's that real energy, bro.
Nip,
it's coming
Nip
up.
Got bro. You. Nip was speaking through you right there, bro. Nip was talking to you, bro.
Oh man, go shop the marathon continues, man. Go shop at the marathon store, bro. The shirt is official.
Hell yeah. All right, brother.
All right, bro. Good talk.
So.
Who am I? The girls them sugar.